We were somewhere around Barstow, on the edge of the desert, when the drugs began to take hold.
Hunter S. Thompson was an American journalist and founder of the gonzo journalism movement. Before we get too far into this, I'd like to get into some background about Thompson's career before Fear and Loathing. Thompson's first big story was writing with the Hells Angels in California. For about a year, he wrote down his thoughts and opinions about what was happening throughout the chapter, eventually writing the book Hells Angels, the strange and terrible saga of outlaw motorcycle gangs. This will get in by Thompson getting beaten or stomped, as the Hells Angels called it, because as Thompson's story goes, the Hells Angels member was beating his wife and his dog. This, as Thompson thought, was wrong, and he fought him for it. If you fight one Hells Angel, you fight them all. And thus getting Thompson expelled from the chapter. This made Thompson famous, though, but even so, Thompson was never good at keeping up deadlines for his articles, which caused him to bounce from magazine to magazine for most of his life. His next big story, though, was the Kentucky Derby is decadent and depraved. This made him a known journalist for his counterculture ideals. His next big break, and the focus of this video, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, a savage journey into the heart of the American dream. This is what Hunter S. Thompson would be known for the rest of his life, creating gonzo journalism. He named it in the story too, Dr. Gonzo being named after it. He also explicitly referenced gonzo journalism quite a few times. Gonzo journalism removes the claims of objectivity and takes the journalist as the main character. It turns this true story into a fictional story, but all of it happening in real life. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was an entirely true story from Thompson's point of view. Well, from what he can remember of it. The main characters are Raoul Duke and Dr. Gonzo. Raoul Duke was Thompson's character and described as wearing a bucket cap, yellow aviator sunglasses, and an alpaca shirt most of the time. Dr. Gonzo also wore that shirt and a pair of sunglasses. He was described differently as a 300-pound Samoan, and Oscar Zeta Acosta was slightly offended by this, but he let it go. As I said, Dr. Gonzo was based off a real person, Oscar Zeta Acosta. He was an American attorney and activist, and he went on this journey with Thompson to the fabulous Mint 400, but unfortunately in 1974 he went missing without a trace. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas has three main themes: drugs, violence, and the death of the American dream. The story is absolutely all about drugs, and the most iconic quote is a list of drugs.
We had 2 bags of grass, 75 pellets of mescaline, 5 sheets of high-powered blotter acid, a salt shaker half full of cocaine, a whole galaxy of multicolored uppers, downers, screamers, laughers, also a quart of tequila, quart of rum, case of beer, pint of raw ether, 2 dozen amyls.
The entirety of the story is caused by drugs. At the end of the story, there are so many regrets. Raoul Duke is alone and scared in the desert, and he thinks about his ether binge and all the drugs in his trunk, and thinks about how foolish he was. The next theme is violence. The story is chock full of violent threats, from throwing bombs into stores to threatening to kill your friends with a black .357 Magnum. Duke and Gonzo thought about killing 2 characters in the book specifically, but they often berate others, their thoughts as dark as their actions. The third and the most important theme, the death of the American dream. The other themes don't compare to this, as this was the focus of the novel. This novel, based on true experiences, Thompson wanted to make sure one thing was clear: the death of the American dream. The dream that all Americans were chasing was no longer there. In the book, Dr. Gonzo is quoted as saying, "But let's forget about that bullshit about the American dream." He went on to saying something about the Great Samoan Dream. Finally, for the last part of this video, I'd like to talk about the reception of this book. As I've said, this was the first time gonzo journalism was ever used. This put Thompson on the map. This is what established him. This is what made him known. This made him known as Raw Duke, not as Hunter S. Thompson. Thompson in his later years once... I'm never sure which one people expect me to be. Very often they conflict. Most often, as a matter of fact. I'm leading a normal life, and right alongside of me there's this myth, and it is growing, and it is mushrooming, and getting more and more warped. When I get invited to speak at universities, I'm not sure if they're inviting Duke or Thompson. I'm not sure who to be.